Hello, I am Jessami Kingsley and I am an online business manager and the director at Virtual Forte. In this episode, you can expect to hear about all things outsourcing, flexibility, helping working mums, as well as my travels over the years. Enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today I have the pleasure of hosting the phenomenal Jessami Kingsley. Now, Jess, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you, Prosper. How are you?
What's happening at the Virtual Forte?
There's a lot going on, a lot of exciting things happening. As we were just talking about, I feel like it's all, busy, but a lot of amazing opportunities.
Absolutely. Well, for those that are meeting Jessami for the very first time, let me just take you from under that digital rock you've been hiding under. Now, Jessami is an award-winning online business manager and the powerhouse behind Virtual Forte. Now, Jessami isn't just any other master at optimizing systems and figuring out pixels and everything else that you could think about on the internet, or just sorting out social media. She's actually a trailblazer in creating fulfilling, flexible opportunities for moms returning to work. Now, her journey from a high-pressure corporate environment to building a business that actually embodies balance, empowerment, and flexibility is nothing short of inspirational. So that's the reason why we've got her on today, so she can tell us what an OBM actually does and what she has discovered in all the 60 countries that she has traveled to, and also what she thinks about diving with great whites and how she's built a community where businesses actually thrive and families flourish. She is a true adventurer in all sense. All right. Not only is she exploring the world through the 60 countries, but she's also an internet explorer. Now, in this episode, we're going to be looking at all the moments that have actually transformed her career, the invisible lessons that she has picked up along the way, and also what it is that she is doing to help others be, do, and have a business that's profitable and enjoyable. And one of her flagship tailored services called Strengthen Your Socials. And for those that are thinking strengthening your socials is taking selfies at the gym, you couldn't be any further from the truth, because this is an actual game changer for businesses. So I want you to stay tuned and get ready to laugh, reflect, and even rethink your approach to the entrepreneurial journey that you are on. Now, Jessami, I could go on and on. This is my show and I can say whatever I want, but it actually defeats the whole purpose of having you, the expert, on the show today. Tell us a little bit about your journey so far and what it is that you're doing for others.
Okay, well, thank you firstly for having me on the show. So as you alluded to, I'm a mother of two intense, yet very adorable children. I'm a partner to an incredibly passionate, golf-obsessed Irishman. And I'm also very motivated and determined to, and energetic, I guess, with a passion of empowerment, flexibility, and giving back. So I aspire to be a role model to all those around me, and in particular my family. And I guess that sort of led me to where I am now, being the online business manager and the director at Virtual Forte. So the reason why I set up my business was, as you said in the intro, I worked in the corporate industry for around 20 years. And after having my children, that no longer aligned to my aspirations. And I live on the beautiful Ballarat Peninsula, and I was actually travelling 2 hours each way to get to the office. This is just pre-COVID. And I just thought, if I'm spending that much time away from my family, I want to be doing something that I loved. And the role that I was doing no longer fulfilled me. So into COVID, I'm sorry to mention it again, but thankfully I took a redundancy from my corporate role, and then I thought, well, what next? I had, as I said, all these years of experience and expertise in whether it was project management, governance, events management. And I thought, well, how can I sort of help others? How can I kind of give back? Because in my corporate roles, I felt like I was so far removed from, whether it was the customer or helping people. So that's where I started. I can't even remember actually where I stumbled across virtual assistants, but I stumbled across it. I became VA certified. And as a result, started helping out other businesses with their administration and, giving them their time back so they can focus on what they do best. So ideally, those strategic activities that grow their business. So that was sort of, right in the peak of all the lockdowns and things. So it was great to kind of build up slowly and be present for my family. But then the business went from strength to strength. And I had a lot of clients coming to me saying, Jess, our business needs assistance. And I reached maximum capacity myself. So then I thought, right, how can I be smarter about this? And at the same time, I was having conversations with other mums at school pickups and drop-offs. And I was sort of saying, well, how do you find that job? How do you find that, ideal role that's fulfilling but sort of suits those school hours, like the drop-off and the pickup? So, the 9:30s to sort of, 2:30, 3 o'clock. And that's where I decided to expand my team. So I've got a team of highly skilled mums, all VAs. They're all certified as well. And they now too help out other businesses with their administration. So, it's great that we can give back to our clients, but also, give back to our team. But I guess the main reason why I started my business is so I could give back to myself and be present for my family as well.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us on that journey and obviously giving us a highlight into your life. So 20 years in corporate. What were you doing?
Yes. Well, initially it started out in London, funnily enough. So this goes back to my adventurous side. I finished university and decided, no, I just want to go travelling. I actually did a degree in tourism and events management. But then, went travelling, started working in London, started working for large organisations over there, just started out in project administration, and then that sort of quickly grew to sort of project coordination, project management. And then, found myself back here in Australia, working for some of the top banks and large organisations. With event management, I did a stint with the Australian Open, which was an amazing experience. But then, other large organisations like ANZ and M.E.D.I.A. So mostly within project management and PMO management, so that governance side of things.
Absolutely. And during these travels, is this where we met the golf-obsessed Irish?
No, interestingly enough, and this is a story, I guess, for another time, we actually met online. So everyone assumes that I met him amongst my travels. But I moved back. I went travelling for, probably unsettled for about 10 years, where I was just travelling back and forth and, sort of taking contract roles and then going travelling and things like that. And then interestingly enough, my last trip that I did, which was probably one of my most challenging, where I went travelling around South America by myself, I came back and I'm like, you know what? I'm done travelling by myself now. I'm ready to meet someone. So, and then enter in this golf-obsessed Irishman who I met on, I can't even remember, Oasis Active, I think it was. So, and the rest is history.
Absolutely. So your virtual, life management did not just start now with virtual Forte. You literally had been in the thick of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
During that time. Now, you went to over 60 countries, and obviously there's so much culture, learnings, travel that would have happened. I mean, just in a nutshell, what were some of the highlights that you would have picked up on while you were traveling that you feel like, wow, this is something I wouldn't have experienced had I just stayed here in Australia?
Yeah. Well, I think there was a lot that I learned about obviously different nationalities, different cultures, but especially about myself. I knew early on that I always sort of wanted to travel, and it was so great being based in London for 5 years, because I just travelled to Europe like nearly every second weekend. Sometimes it was actually cheaper to travel to Eastern Europe for the weekend as opposed to staying in London. But I guess the things that I really learned is, I guess the diversity and as I said, learning about different cultures. But the main thing that I really loved was the connection with other people that I met along the way, which is, what I've tried to continue to do in my business as well, especially when I was traveling around the likes of sort of South America. It was people that you meet that you've only had this short conversation with, but you have so much in common and you feel like you know them so well. So that was definitely sort of the key things that I've learned. As far as the travel locations and the highlights in that respects go, I know you alluded to sort of, great white cage diving and things like that in Africa. And Africa was one of the most amazing continents that I've been to. And that was sort of, it's hard to go past that whole experience, where I was playing with baby lion cubs, swimming with great white sharks. We got riding on the back of elephants, up close with gorillas. So they were definitely highlights of my travels.
Absolutely. We literally could just end this video here because now I've just heard what I wanted to hear, really. Especially, you having fun with the lion walks. You would have been doing that around Victoria Falls and maybe the elephant rides and
Yep.
things of that nature. Do you know that's
Yeah.
where I'm actually from?
Are you?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. There you go. Amazing.
One of my first jobs was to sell rafting activities on the Zambezi. And
I did that.
you started talking about baby lions and things of that nature. You just
Antelope Park. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. There you go. Small world.
Great stuff. Yeah, it is quite a small world, and I quite like that you now have this sort of experience, because that just really prepares you for the entrepreneurial world, because you never know what to expect in this sort of world, really. But you did come back and obviously became continued with your career and stuff like that. Started a family, which congratulations for having done that. You then realized you didn't want to be traveling 2 hours. Was that 1 hour, two, or was it 2 hours going? Because
2 hours each way, so 4 hours in total.
Oh, so that's like out of a 24-hour day, like the whole 4 hours is dedicated to you being, was it train or driving?
Train. Yeah, it was train. But it meant, obviously, because I had such a young family, my son was just 12 months old. So it meant getting up at like 4:30 in the morning to get the train by, I think, 5:30. So I could leave the office by 3 to get the 3:30 train to be home to see my children for dinner. And I guess that was one of the major catalysts of me leaving the corporate world as well, is one day the train was cancelled coming back, and I just felt like I would get into the office and I would just run from like meeting to meeting, or try and cram in as much as I could. And then one day the train was cancelled, and it meant that I couldn't pick up my son from daycare and I couldn't pick up my daughter from kinder. And I was like, what am I doing? Who am I serving? I'm not, I don't feel fulfilled in this role anymore. And, I'm definitely not helping myself or my family. So that was a real sort of catalyst and eye-opener for me, that particular point.
Absolutely. Now, is this just a Jessami thing, or is there a lot of people that are probably experiencing this, this whole not being able to fulfill that part of your life?
I definitely don't think it's unique to me. And I've had this conversation with so many other mums, and call it matrescence or whatever you want to call it. But I also think, you get to a certain age as well and you sort of question things that you're doing in your life. But I think once you have these little tiny humans that now look up to you, you want to be that positive role model. You want to practice what you preach. And I constantly say to my children, you can do anything you set your mind to. And, here I was, though, sort of, going back to this role because it kind of fitted the mold and it had that security and, this is probably what I should have been doing. But it was not, as I said, wasn't serving me, wasn't serving my family. So that's why I sort of had to question, what am I going to do this forever? And, this is a role that I'm going to do forever. I want it to be able to be flexible and be there so I can be there for my children, because my daughter was just starting school the following year. As I said, my son had just gone into daycare. So I wanted to be present for them, not just, worrying about the 4-hour trip to Melbourne and back.
But also that came with the essence of security and just really knowing, that everything will be looked after. Yes. The price to pay was that 4 hours that you had to literally sacrifice. And that 4 hours alone is just the travel time. We're not looking at the prior time, you getting ready, making sure all that other time. So that just didn't leave you with much time. But leaving a secure job for unknown can be daunting for a lot of people. What sort of fears and doubts did you maybe face, and how did you overcome them?
Oh, it can be absolutely daunting. And as I said, yeah, leaving that job security and that financial security. So, it obviously has another, going back to your children, you also want to be able to provide for your family as well and have that security. So thankfully, I'd been at my last role for just over 10 years. So I did take a redundancy. So I had a little bit of time where I could kind of work out what my next steps were and what I planned to do after that. And that's when, I stumbled across, virtual assistants. So I did my accreditation. I started my business out quite slowly, knowing I still had sort of, that redundancy package in the bank as well. But thankfully, I managed to do my certification and get my first client sort of, pretty quickly within the first sort of couple of months. And then things have just sort of, this sort of snowballed from there, and I haven't looked back.
Congratulations. I mean, so many people
Thank you.
take quite a while to get set
Yeah.
sorted. And, knowing how things work, a lot of people don't go past the 3 year mark. And, if we look at what
Yeah.
you're doing now, it's incredible. So
Thank you.
congratulations. You're not a statistic anymore. Now, one of the
No.
things that usually is a big burden for a lot of business people, which might sound like an oxymoron to you,
Mm.
or an irony, is delegation. All right.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're asking people to delegate their work to you, but how is it for you now as a business owner wanting to then pass on that work to other people, and
Yeah.
in that sort of realm?
Yeah. It's a really great question because it's a lesson I've had to learn the hard way. Excuse me, because here I am sort of saying to my clients, outsource and delegate so you can free up your time. However, I got to the point at the end of last year where I was probably quite close to burnout because I was trying to do it all within my own business. So I wasn't actually practicing what I was preaching to my clients. So for me, this year has been, I guess, a year of ensuring I've got that extra support around me, delegating things that I can too, because you can't do it all. And I understand, as business owners, we grow our business and it's our baby. It's, we like to have everything in control and have, be across everything. But also, I know too that it can be hard to let go. But this year has been, a big learning for me and getting that further support, delegating out further tasks that I, don't necessarily need to be doing. But also the key one is, building up that community and that support around me. Especially, a lot of people now work from home, and especially, in the VA industry and so many other industries, it can really feel quite isolating. So if you haven't even got that support or that network around you, that can be really tough too. So these are sort of some things that I've been working through this year, and it's really benefited me professionally and personally.
Absolutely. You see, I
Yeah.
also got to realize you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands full. I was holding
No,
on to
absolutely
everything.
not.
And
Yes.
even when you go shopping, if you've got all your baskets or your shopping bags, you won't be able to open
Yeah.
your car doors or whatever, unless it's one of
Yeah.
those fancy new ones where you kick up from underneath it. Have you seen people do that?
Yes.
Same
Or
thing
even
with
just, yeah.
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 Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what are some of the lessons that or ideas that you can give to people, especially when it comes to the delegation? Because that's also something you've got to teach your clients that
Yeah.
yes, you've got somebody now that can help
Mm.
you, but for some people, it's still very difficult to let go.
Oh, absolutely. And I've had a lot of these conversations with clients, because as I said, I understand firsthand how difficult it can be to let go because you've built up this business and, this amazing idea and this whole thing around you. But then, kind of giving it to some people who you don't necessarily know or trust can be really, really difficult. So that's where I find my role is really, really important. And it's almost like a bit of a matchmaker service, because, I have some of my direct clients as well, but especially when I'm finding team members to work with clients, it's really important that they sort of meet the key requirements, so the skill set and everything else that the business owner requires, but personality is really key as well. So I always, to try and match up, obviously the competencies, but then it's those soft skills that you can't teach people. So it's a matter of matching those as well, and then building up sort of that trust and that rapport with the clients. So what I'll always say to them is I'm sort of the client relationship manager, I guess. So if they have any concerns or questions, they can always come back to me, and they've got my support as well as the team member. But, we'll typically sort of start off the agreement to say just around that 3 and set it for 3 months. So we can kind of have that check-in and make sure that, things are progressing well. They've sort of, worked out their operating rhythm, their communication style, and that, they can obviously, we can partner with the business. So it's not just a matter of, coming in and sort of doing what they're told. Sometimes, especially as an OBM, I know you mentioned it earlier, OBMs and kind of the senior VAs can really bring a lot to other businesses as well. They can kind of come up with ideas of streamlining things, possibly automating things, other ways of doing things, which is fantastic, because I know obviously as a business owner as well, sometimes you do things in a certain way and you kind of have your blinkers on, but there could be other ways that can just save so much more time and streamline business operations. So it's a matter of having those conversations and having that open line of communication with my client, my team member, and making sure that everyone, works really well together so we can partner with our clients.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously fish do not see the water that they swim in. I mean, you swum with great whites. They always just think that that's what the world looks like. And I can only imagine when you show up to a business, they have the mentality, we've always done things like this. Is it difficult then for you to come in and say, hey, you could do things easier? Or let's say you're driving this Ferrari with a handbrake on, let's change a few things. Are people willing to just let go immediately, or you actually have to go in and really pull them?
Well, we don't just pull everything apart and then put it back together. But there are some people that are kind of resistant to it because, it's worked well in the past. That's the way they've always done it, and they're going to continue to do it that way. But what we tend to do is, we'll come in, we'll sort of work out sort of the systems and the tools, and we'll always put together like a standard operating procedure, or SOPs. So we can sort of, I guess, map what the existing process is, or the, how the client doesn't exist currently. But then we sort of say, well, how about, possibly changing this? So sometimes it can just be even small tweaks or minor adjustments. So especially if they are not so sure about the change, it's not sort of too much for them to obviously take in, or too much for them to get their head around. But what we'll do is we'll obviously have the baseline as those SOPs, and then with those changes we can say, well, we have reduced this process, for example, from an hour to 30 minutes. So I think a lot of the time, once you kind of get in, you sort of make your suggestions, obviously if it suits them, because at the end of the day it's their call, it's their business. But if you can then show the results and show the statistics of how you can streamline things or automate things, or obviously optimize their business operations, the proof is in the pudding. They can see what the benefits are, and they can not only free up their own time, but obviously the time that they obviously have other assistants. And that's where that they really can see the benefits.
Absolutely. So you like go into a business and be like the Marie Kondo, you know what I mean? And say, is this giving you energy?
Exactly. If not, throw it in the bin. Yeah. No, we come in with a very much an open mind. And sometimes it's always great to have a fresh pair of eyes on things. Like I know even for my own business, when I've had people that have come in and helped me out, I've just done it this way because that's the way I've learned to do it. And then that's just, what I revert back to. But sometimes it's always great to have that fresh pair of eyes to overlook your tools, your systems, your applications, and have those further suggestions. And especially if they have that experience, they can say, well, have you tried this? And this can, really enhance this. And a lot of the time that's where you can, really show the benefits.
Absolutely. And I think you're literally giving people permission to actually, enjoy their businesses and become profitable and enjoyable, because when you're within something, a business, you won't be able to actually see, or if you're within the frame, you won't be able to actually see the picture of what somebody who's coming in elsewhere would do. But Jessami, you left your previous job because obviously it wasn't no longer aligned with you, and obviously the time, travel, and things of that nature. But it looks like you're taking on another business and another business and other businesses, and that must just take up your whole day now. Does this still align with your family values, and how do you maintain the balance? or do you have clients calling you up because it's their business and they want a password to some sort of platform, and maybe you sporting the Irishman playing golf? I don't know how your day looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, another really great question. So as I alluded to, towards the end of last year, I was trying to do all the things and had spread myself too thinly. However, this year has been a real learning for me about sort of, especially putting in clear boundaries. So I've always been, big on setting boundaries, especially from the start for our clients, and, team members alike. But, they have to recognise too that we're here to support them, but we also need to have our boundaries and work specific times as well. So that's usually a really key conversation that we'll have initially with our client in setting up those expectations and what those contact times are as well. Because I'm conscious of that for my team too, because, the last thing I want is, the reason why I'm, obviously giving these roles to my team is so they can have that flexibility and still be present for their family as well. So by setting those clear expectations and those boundaries up front, the client knows when they can contact us, and having those open lines of conversation where they know exactly what we're working on, because sometimes that can be a bit daunting for business owners in the fact that they're like, well, you're not in my office. How do I know that you are working? Or, how do I know what you're doing? So it's having, like, whether it's clear project management boards and whatever, so they know exactly what all the activities are and the tasks that they're working on, when they're going to be completed by, whether they've been pushed out. So it's a matter of just having those open lines of communication, and they know exactly when they can contact myself, then they can contact the team members, no sort of DMs at like 10 o'clock at night saying, Jess, I need you to do this straight away. So it's a matter of, working with the client, but also so they, obviously understand that we too have, our own businesses, our own family, and our own boundaries too.
I mean, obviously, coming from corporate, Jess, you would appreciate there's ladders to climb. There's, status and things of that nature to uphold. But with entrepreneurship, with corporate, there's ladders. With entrepreneurship, is parachutes. You just jump out of a plane and see where you're gonna land. Has your definition of success sort of evolved since you started your own business?
Absolutely, yeah. And because I used to be a PMO manager at one of the top 4 banks, so I used to put in these structures and have all this governance, but also have that support and those teams around you. So entrepreneurship, as you said, you are wearing all the hats. You are, you are the HR, you're the, IT, you're the legal, you are everything. So it is a bit of a baptism of fire, I guess, especially when you're so used to having these supportive teams around you in a large organisation. And I remember even the first time when I was, publishing my website and putting myself out there to the world. And I remember my partner saying, what are you so worried about? And I'm like, but this is me. I'm used to, I'm putting myself out to the world, whereas I'm used to kind of always hiding behind a corporate banner. So I think once you do that and you take that leap of faith, sometimes with the biggest risk comes the biggest reward as well. So, and I think also a key thing about entrepreneurship is being a constant learner and constantly, reapplying learnings and findings and things that haven't gone right, because they're not always going to go right, but reapplying them back into your business and learning from them. So I think if you kind of go in with, quite a very open mind, then, you can obviously work things out along the way, but always constantly kind of strive to those goals. But that's where, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's so important to have that support network around you. So, if you're not sure about a certain thing, whether it is in marketing or HR or whatever, having those good contacts that you can kind of just bounce ideas off, because no one knows it all. So, that's why I think it's so important to have that to fall back on as well.
Absolutely. You see, where I come from, where you've been, Antelope Park, we usually say if you want to go far, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you go together,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's exactly what you have created for yourself. But
yes,
you've lived, you've learned, and now you're contributing so that other mothers can also enjoy this that you have created. I mean, you could have just kept it to yourself, but you're sharing the spoils of what you're experiencing with other moms. What has been the most rewarding part of empowering other people through virtual Forte? I mean, like we say, you could have just kept it to yourself.
Yeah. So for my team, the most empowering thing would be seeing them grow, and just their self-confidence grow. So, I've had team members that have not really known what to do. They've had children and had this previous, like all of my team members have fantastic, experience, whether it's in corporate or, large organizations. And then they sort of have their children and then they're not really sure what to do. And similar, maybe in the same boat as me, whether it's, matrescence or, no longer aligns. But I had one team member in particular who hadn't worked for 10 years because she, wanted to be there for her family, wanted to be the primary support. I think they moved around a lot. And then, she didn't know what to do next. And she came to me and said, look, I'm really interested in doing this. So we worked through, her getting her VA certification, and I helped her out with a lot of the tools and the processes and set her up. And then also found an ideal client for her. And it was so lovely to catch up with her, a couple of months in, and just, she was a different person. She all of a sudden had this, no sense of self back or purpose, because yes, obviously being a mum was still her priority and her main role. However, it was really nice for her to find something that she could do that was really fulfilling for her. Obviously contribute back to the family financially, but leverage that or utilize the previous experience that she'd had, that she didn't know how to tap into again because it had been so long. So it was really nice to, see her grow in confidence. And then, within a couple of months, she started working for another client. And, now I believe she's got another client in her book. So it's so nice just for her to realise that, she can continue to do something and have that, her self-worth, I guess, as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we're societal beings, no matter how we want to separate ourselves, but we are societal beings. I mean, the one thing that we always want to do is to help others be, do, and have a happier existence as well. And even if you're doing it for your family, but we know we are meant for, greater things. Now, with that, you've also been able to create a suite of products that people can actually enjoy and start working on. And the one that I think caught my attention is strengthen your socials. And you corrected me earlier. It's not about taking selfies in the gym, right?
No, sorry. If they want to do that, they can do that. But then it's about, sort of more around their kind of social media strategy and really engaging with their audience as well.
Absolutely. Would you let us know, how does this service work, and how can people actually get started in strengthening their socials?
Absolutely. So I was currently doing it with a couple of, existing clients anyway, and I do really love, I guess it's sort of the PMO manager in me, setting up a strategy and having the plan. And especially with social media, a lot of people that I was speaking to is that they would sort of almost get writer's block, and they'd be like, oh, I know I need to post on, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn for my social media or for my business, but I just don't know what to post. And then they kind of get paralyzed by perfection and don't post anything at all. So I came up with this offer where I have an hour strategy session with the client. Before that, I get them to complete a questionnaire where we work out, what their unique selling proposition is, if they have any special offers or special collaborations, or just sort of really think outside the box as to how they can really, promote their business and, not just put photos of themselves at the gym. I sit down with them once I've completed the questionnaire. We sit down for an hour, we go through the questionnaire and sort of offer some further ideas as to how they can look at things and how they can, further engage with their audience. And then we go through an actual content calendar. So we create a calendar. In the calendar, it has sort of, any key special events or dates that might be, relate back to their business, so they can kind of pick a particular date they want to focus on or a particular theme for that month. So, whether it is sort of for the new year, setting new goals or new beginnings and things like that, and then how they can kind of tie that back to their product. So we usually find that once they have that content, we'll have the strategy behind it and kind of understand, what they're going to really focus on and what their unique selling proposition is and how they stand out from the crowd. Then we go through the content calendar, and in the content calendar, I give them ideas about not only obviously the dates, but, key hooks that they can use, call to actions, and we go through a whole list of things where they can really engage with their audience and really attract their hero client. And sorry, that's another thing we focus on in the questionnaire is who exactly are they speaking to? So each time they put together their posts, they know exactly sort of the key messaging or the pain points or the benefits that they're focusing on for their clients. So, when people are busy scrolling on social media, they can go, oh, that person's talking to me and I want what they're doing or what they're selling. So it's about, putting together the strategy, the content calendar, and also just giving them that confidence, I guess. And I usually find that once they've got sort of that structure and an idea of kind of, or a theme of what they want to post, then I find they just get that ball rolling and they can keep that ball rolling. So rather than being paralyzed by perfection, they can kind of go, oh, what's happening this week or what's coming up in this coming month? This is the key area of focus and this is how I can help my hero client. And then that's where they can really focus on what their content can be all about.
Absolutely, I quite like that because I obviously believe if a lot of businesses knew what to post, when to post, and
Yeah.
don't just get in their way, there will be
Yeah.
really good quality content because so many people are working hard to perfect their expertise, but it's not
Yes.
showcasing in the social media space there. And I
No,
think
absolutely not.
I think something like what you're providing is great. Now, what would be the best way that people can maybe get a hold of you, look at your services, and maybe see how they can get started working with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can go to my website, which is www.virtualforte.com.au, or otherwise my Instagram if they're interested in checking out my own socials. But they would be the best ways to contact me, or they can also email me as well at jess@virtualforte.com.au.
Absolutely. You actually look at the emails, right? It's not your VA that.
No, it's not my VA. No, no. I still manage my own emails. Tricks of the
Absolutely.
trade.
I'll definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes below. And
Thank you.
yeah, now you've taken us on a journey here, Jessamy, and obviously you've now created that very thing that you would have loved to have had. If you would maybe go back to the Jessamy you introduced us in the busy streets of London and going to eat croissants in France and things of that nature, and she's just contemplating life,
Yeah.
what would you want her to see on your socials today?
I would want her to see that just to believe in yourself and go with what feels right. So I think, the biggest learning for me was that, up until becoming a mum, I just went with what I thought was right. But deep down, I didn't really enjoy it so much. However, it kind of served a purpose. It funded my travels. It ticked a lot of the boxes. But I think what I would love for my, 22-year-old Jessamy walking the streets of London to see is that, believe in yourself and continue to, I guess, take those leaps of faith, continue to, question things and, work out really what you want to do to suit, your life and your key requirements, because that's what I'm so grateful for. And the fact that my business, we've, attracted some amazing clients and some amazing team members. And I'm about attracting, people organically and the right, aligned values and aspirations. And that's why I find, we all work so well together. But yeah, that's the key learning in the fact that keep on doing what feels right. Obviously go with where your strengths are. And yeah, just keep on pushing forward.
Absolutely. You see, I love what you just said because so many people have not been given an opportunity to believe in themselves. And I feel like, once you then get on this other side and experience that you literally can be, do, and have that which you want, it's
Yes.
a great feeling. And thank you so much for having
Yeah.
gone through that journey, so you can showcase to others that it is actually possible. But just for me, like I was telling you earlier, that even at dinner table, my kids are rolling their eyes when I'm trying to be very entertaining and things of that nature. There's probably somebody
Yes.
watching this and they're just rolling their eyes so far back they can even see the breakfast that they have eaten, and they're thinking, oh,
Yeah.
I wouldn't hire a virtual assistant. If you want anything done, you do it
Mm.
yourself.
Mm.
What's the thing that you could advise people like that who might be considering to hire VA, but they're still not really, convinced that that's the next logical step for them to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for those people that are trying to, hold on to everything themselves, and I've come across a lot of business owners that are like this, then all I say to them is that, how are they managing everything and how are they juggling everything? Are they waking up in the middle of the night worried about sort of certain tasks that they haven't completed, or spreading themselves too thinly, or do they even have time for themselves or their loved ones? So I guess that's always a key indication that you can't do everything yourself. And as I said, it's been a real learning for me that to practice what I preach, I can't do everything myself either. So my suggestion or my advice to those people would be, if you can manage it all, amazing, that's great. If you can't, and you are finding that you aren't sleeping well, or you've got too much on your plate, or you've got a never-ending to-do list, there is no harm in asking for support and asking for help. And usually when you do, that's when it can sort of free up that mindset of that creativity or those strategic activities, or continue to build their business. So I've had conversations with business owners where they've said they've had too much on their plate, and it's actually prevented their business from growing because, they haven't got around to, liaising with that prospective client that's come through, or the email that's come through, etc. So for business owners that are wanting to grow or scale, then my advice would be to them is just see if there are even just a lower level activity. So whether it is just, your email management, your calendar management, whether it is a social media or accounts assistance, so they can really just flourish and thrive in what they do best.
I can so see that, because so many people in their way, because they're just trying to make sure that they're doing everything, and they end up doing nothing,
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
end of the
exactly.
day.
Yeah,
Absolutely. How
that
about
can prevent their business from growing.
Absolutely. How about Sally, who's also maybe doing an hour and a half, not exactly 2 hours on the train, and she's just afraid that if they let go of what they're doing, it might just not pan out, and
Yep.
being a virtual assistant,
Mm.
might not be the way to go for them. What sort of advice would you give to a person like that?
I would say, look, if you're passionate about it, and once again, if you back yourself and you believe that you can achieve it, then you will be able to do it. So, I've had a couple of VAs come to me or people, sorry, who are in a corporate role and are thinking of maybe starting out or thinking of even doing it on the side. So that's also another really good advice, in the fact that if people are worried about leaving, I guess, this full-time corporate role, because they've obviously got to support their family, sometimes you could even start off slowly. So if you wanted to become a virtual assistant, you can start off by helping clients, whether it's outside of hours or weekend work, and then you can get the ball rolling that way. So we don't want to necessarily encourage people to just throw away the job security and the financial security and jump on into the VA world, because sometimes it can take a little while to grow up your client base. A lot of clients, may only need sort of that 5 or 10 hours. So, you could be going from 40 hours to, 5 or 10 hours. So my suggestion to them would be to maybe, dabble in sort of doing it as a side hustle, and then seeing if that's what they really want to do. And then, continue to grow their client base as well. And that's where I guess it's worked really well as far as my team members go, because sometimes, these people are really, really busy that they haven't gone out and found their own clients. So that's where I can find them a client too, and they can obviously join our team. But that also gives them the opportunity and the experience to see what it's like, whether they do want to continue to do it. But it comes back to that passion side of things as well. So, there was one, I do some coaching through Global Sisters, and there was one of the sisters that came through to me, and she said, I love events. I really want to focus on events, but I feel like I should do, this administration side of things. And I said, go where your passion lies, because if you are passionate about it, then, you'll continue to do it, and you'll continue to be driven towards that. So I said to her, obviously, if there's clients that pop up and, you really want to work with them, amazing. But I said, focus on, whether it's your social media or the way that you are marketing your business, then, focus on those key competencies so you can really attract those clients in that particular area.
Absolutely. And now I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today, Jessami. I mean, your life story, your experience, and what you've created is literally a template that so many people can actually use to be doing and have not only a business that's profitable and enjoyable, but also a happier existence, because you've literally crafted your own path. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today. But it would be remiss for me to not ask, what's next? Where are we going with all this?
Great question. Look, I'm happy with where I'm at the moment, continuing to build out, as I said, our client base, our team base, continue to build out that community. I'm looking at doing sort of more community events. So for women in business around our local area, I currently have a hub, like a VA hub, where I meet with VAs around the area every month. So I'm looking forward to really investing more time in that. So if anyone is around sort of my area and looking at becoming a VA, they can come along for a coffee and ask questions about that as well, or for existing VAs too. I really am looking forward to really building out more of a sense of community. I'd love to, as I said, help other women, continue helping other women in business, whether that's, mums and other business owners, and just continue to build that out and see where it takes me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all that you're doing, and also just giving other people hope as to, because if somebody has been told that maybe their work is non-essential or be made redundant or things of that nature, it just really crushes their confidence. And if they can now go and be useful and don't even have to, give blood or 2 hours of their day or 4 hours of their day just to get to a place where they're being relegated to the lowest rungs of work, then I think you are literally doing work that is meant for the higher ups, but we'll just leave it at virtual Forte for now. So
well, there's always a silver lining, isn't there? Like, things do happen, and at first you sort of wonder why they're happening, but a lot of the time you learn so much from those experiences, and then you can kind of reapply them into your own sort of personal development.
Absolutely. Well, like I said earlier on, we're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. And you've lived.
Absolutely.
I mean, even went as far as swimming with the great whites, walking with the lions and the elephants. And you went to learn, which is, you're learning the skill set that you now have and all the 20 years of experience that you bring to the table. And now you're just sending the elevator down full of goodies for those moms and the business owners that get to experience that now. Isn't that a complete package?
Yeah. It's so fulfilling, and especially to see those people benefit from that as well. So I love it.
Absolutely. Well, we've benefited from your time today on the Online Prosperity Show. That's for sure. This will definitely be one of those episodes that we're going to frame, in our YouTube Hall of Fame, because I think you've given us adventure, empowerment, and actionable insights all in a space of 45 minutes. And I couldn't ask for anything more, Jessami. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And if you're watching this right now, thank you so much too. And dare I say, if Jessami's story resonated with you, or somebody that could actually benefit from either her services or her inspiring stories, do not keep this episode to yourself. Share it with those people that are looking to enhance their work as entrepreneurs, or to actually look for other avenues that they can start looking after their families in the form of working with Jessami as VAs there. Now, there's so much that was said in this particular episode, so I encourage you to look in the links below so you can follow Jessami's journey, or you can actually see what sort of services she is offering. And don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more inspiring stories and expert advice. And you never know, your next big breakthrough could just be an episode away. And speaking of which, watch the next episode where we're speaking to the expert that obviously is changing their world and other people's world. Bye for now.